The Trump administration is doing everything he can to pretty much stop all visa processing. The U.S. government is making major changes in the last maybe 6 weeks to basically prevent people from coming to the United States, whether it's through some kind of executive order or just slight changes in staffing in the embassies or USCIS or even firing judges. In January, President Trump obviously signed a ton of executive orders that would basically implement a lot of immigration halting. He's obviously trying to kick as many immigrants as he can out of the United States. But what about immigrants who have gone through the legal process to come into the United States? Well, he's also preventing them from doing that too. And he's doing it subtly through various orders, but specifically one that implements travel bans. So what he did is sign an executive order that would require a 60-day review period for certain countries as to whether they should come here legally or not on a visa. Now, does he actually care about the process of whether they're coming in here or not? No, he's using that as a way to slow down the process for legal visa holders to enter the United States. Now, he isn't new to this process. He did this back in 2020. He sort of blamed it on COVID, but then he actually turned around and called it a Muslim ban. So he banned visa entries from countries that were basically Muslim. They weren't exactly European-looking countries. Now, this is a tactic. He will not be able to completely shut down visa processing, but this is a definite attempt to slow it down as much as possible. He also signed the craziest executive order yet outside of birthright citizenship on the 12th, basically requiring that all U.S. citizen government employees, whether they work for USCIS, immigration, or at American embassies abroad, basically align with his views and his philosophy. If you're thinking dictator, you're right. If you think that we're going back in time into another country, we absolutely are. So anyone working for an American embassy whose views and philosophy doesn't align with his will be terminated. Well, the whole point of working for an American embassy is to facilitate legal immigration. They're obviously pro-immigration, and he is not. He is obviously trying to prevent it and stop it altogether. So that would basically include everybody. The government is also revising and removing key foreign policy manuals that instruct visa employees on how to facilitate legal immigration and application. So if they're removing the very instruction to allow and teach employees on how to do their job, how are they supposed to do their job? They won't know how. He is also cutting staff at pretty much everywhere. It's been announced as of last week that Trump has fired over 400 Department of Homeland Security employees. That includes employees at USCIS. He's obviously trying to reduce the federal workforce, but when it comes to immigration, this is very strategic. He's doing this on purpose. He's trying to prevent legal and illegal immigration, obviously. Now, he's also fired 20 EYR immigration judges. Can he do that? Yes, because they're the level of judges they are basically subject them to review and termination by the Attorney General. So Trump himself cannot specifically terminate an immigration judge, but by the influence of the Attorney General, he can, he will. Obviously, he does not abide by our legal system or the law at all. That's not obviously something that he concerns himself with. So what he's doing is he's influencing the Attorney General in his pocket to terminate immigration judges. Now, the irony about that part, and the only silver lining, is that if he's trying to facilitate deportations, he's just slowing it down by removing the very people who facilitate it and do it. So I imagine if you're an undocumented immigrant and you have your removal order and you got recently placed in removal proceedings, which happens to a lot of people at the border who are claiming asylum, right? You have your day in court, you have your final trial. Well, this is probably not going to happen until Trump is out of office. At that point, we'll have a completely new administration, hopefully more left. And this kind of insane fascism isn't going to happen. So maybe their cases will be terminated and they won't be deported. So that is the only silver lining in this crazy firing scheme. But that's not all. According to CBS News, there was a leaked memo from USCIS that stated that USCIS is pausing all pending applications and immigration benefits for immigrants who enter the United States legally on certain parole programs. These are all parole programs under the Biden era. So what Biden did when he was president is that he created a lot of programs for people in certain countries that are quite literally unlivable to enter the country legally with work authorization and the ability to obtain citizenship through other means because they're in the United States legally. This includes people who came here on parole programs from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, all of them were allowed under Biden to legally enter the country, obtain work authorization, and stay here for sometimes a year to 2 years, and maybe renew it depending on the country conditions. Now, not to be confused with the fact that Trump literally stopped extension of those programs and revoked those programs entirely last week, but a lot of those people are still in the United States. They can't just pick up and leave, so they filed pending applications for TPS, probably asylum, work permits, as well as green cards through marriage or family-based applications. So a lot of those people stayed and obtained a pathway to citizenship probably through legal counsel. Now USCIS is quite literally refusing to administer those applications and review them based on alleged fraud. Now, here are my thoughts on this. Fraud has always been a thing. You cannot stop potential immigration fraud, whether it's a fake marriage, fiance visa, employment-based visa, where they're not making enough or the job isn't real. This happens all the time. So why on earth would Trump decide to pause all applications, all benefits for people from, this is including up to like 1 million people from these different countries, if there's some fraud. This has been happening all the time. We've never just paused all applications for people from certain countries just because one person committed fraud, right? Now, obviously, it's probably more than one person, but based on the allegation, there's no reasoning to pause all applications other than to chill immigration and scare people from coming here legally. So what USCIS is reportedly doing is pausing all those applications. Remember, this is a pause. They haven't ended it, so that they can review all the applications to basically try to look for alleged fraud and filter that out. But this is what he's doing. This is a strategic move. They're not just pausing it for, this is BS. There's no way that they decided to accurately pause all applications based on some fraud. What he's trying to do is slow down immigration. He is slowing down legal immigration. The very thing he said was not an issue with him and his camp. Also, let's pay attention to the border, Customs and Border Protection, as well as Homeland Security at the airport, because what they are actually doing, this has been confirmed, is that they are potentially taking green card holders into secondary, interrogating them, and giving them a hard time. Why? The American Immigration Lawyers Association actually released a travel warning to lawyers, basically advising their legal permanent resident green card holder clients to not travel internationally in the following situation. 1, if you have a removal order. Yes, if you have a green card, you are not scot-free from immigration. You are not completely outside of risk. If you are not a citizen, you are always under the umbrella and the watchful eye of Big Brother. You are always subject to deportation if you put yourself in there. Why? You are not a U.S. citizen. How do people get a removal order or removal case with a green card, basically residency? Well, this is how they do it. They commit a deportable crime. They get arrested of deportable crime. Whether it's fair or not, they get placed in removal proceedings. They have their day in court in front of a removal judge, and a removal judge gives them that order saying that you have lost your case, you need to leave the country. If you have a green card and you have a removal order, and you haven't left, or you're not leaving for the right reasons, you're leaving basically to travel and you're trying to come back, ICE will detain you. They will interrogate you. That will happen because you should have left originally. Now, the other camp is if you have a conditional green card. What do I mean by that? You have a green card that's conditional on you staying married. So obviously this applies to people who got a 2-year green card through marriage to a U.S. citizen. Now, if you've been married by less than 2 years by the time that you obtain your green card, you have to remove the conditions on your green card 2 years after getting it approved. Those conditions in that application, you're basically proving, yes, my marriage was real, and please keep my green card. If you get approved, you get your conditions removed, you get a 10-year green card, you're eligible to continue on to citizenship eventually. But if you don't get that approved, if you apply to remove your conditions and it gets denied because you have not proved that your original marriage was real, then you have violated the terms and the conditions of your green card, which means that you are subject to removal. So if you leave the country with your green card and you try to come back, ICE will detain you. However, although ICE can detain you and potentially put you in secondary and interrogate you all they want, they cannot actually remove your green card. The only person who can remove the green card from you is an EOIR immigration judge in the United States. That actually has to be removed from then. So ICE can help facilitate the deportation. They can stop you if you have a stamp on your passport allowing you to come back in with a conditional green card, but you have a removal order. That's going to be very confusing to them. They're going to give you a hard time. They might detain you, but then they will put you in formal removal proceedings where an actual judge in immigration court will determine whether you can keep your green card or whether you will lose it and they will deport you. What do all of these scenarios have in common? This is the Trump administration attempting to slow down immigration so much legally within his power that he is actually trying to stop it. It was never about coming here legally. Let me make that clear. It was always about not only conducting mass deportation, which he realistically hasn't been able to do, but also slowing down and preventing legal immigration. I'm an immigration attorney licensed here in Texas, and I can help you with immigration in all 50 states. I will continue to post on all platforms and updates when it comes to immigration for the next